My next question involves complexity. This is a debut novel, and yet it has a very complicated structure, far more complicated than we usually find from debut novelists. Usually they try to keep everything closed, they try to remain in control of their material, and then perhaps they loosen up later on in future works. We see this often. There are exceptions, of course. I mean, Flann O'Brien's most complicated novel was his first, at Swim Two Birds. But generally speaking, I find it unusual, and I'm kind of intrigued by the complexity of the structure, and whether this was something that you decided on beforehand, or whether it's something that grew organically. It seems absolutely right for the book itself, but I am a little bit surprised. As I said, authors like to keep it in control of their material, rather than run any kind of risk of it getting out of hand. And it seems in the second part of this novel you absolutely allowed free rein to not only to the characters but to situations and incidents that you then had to resolve in a subtle way that is behind the scenes. So I would ask you to say something about the complexity of the structure of this book.
This is my new favorite question since the last one about coincidences. To be honest, when I was writing the novel, I wasn't thinking so far as publishing, the challenges to acceptance owing to its heterodox structure, and things like that. I was just so caught up in the meditation of writing that everything else seemed secondary. But I have often thought about why I chose to write in this fashion as opposed to just sticking to a more conventional format. And I think my choice has more to do with my own emotional health as opposed to a calculated strategy on structures. I read The Bell Jar, and I was quite affected by the heaviness of the trauma of the main character in the story. And my novel, my character is named Sylvia. She's named after Plath, and in fact she has the same initials as her, Sylvia Pereira, SP. Perhaps somewhere unconsciously I was trying to rewrite the story of a woman writer who goes through immense pain, and do it in a different way this time. I wanted her to wear her pain lightly. I wanted her to take it in a stride, because that is how I've always done it. When I was going through depression, I've often wanted to disappear. I wanted to forget that I existed, and the only time when I found freedom from myself is when I was deeply engrossed in a well-written story. So I thought, why not give my Sylvia this chance to experience weightlessness? And the way to do it was through stories. I would help her disappear, but not entirely. I mean, she would recede into the background as a peripheral character in the lives of other people who would come to the foreground, tell the stories, and go back. And all the while, Sylvia was there at the background, healing, growing, evolving. And that became the structure to the second part of the novel. I often find a linear, heavy plot to be rather suffocating, tyrannical in fact. I feel a great emphasis on plot can hamper the story's ability to stretch its limbs and relax and live. So perhaps my novel was an attempt to find a solution to this.